Hi, my name is Nathan of Hey4Player, and I'm here today to give you guys a review of Final Fantasy XV. People have been waiting a long time for this game due to its troubled development, many delays, and even a switch from old generation to the current generation of consoles. Now the question on everyone's mind is Final Fantasy XV a good game? And I'm here to answer that and hopefully enlighten you on my experience playing Final Fantasy XV.
In Final Fantasy XV, you take on the role of Noctis, the Prince of Lucius. At the start of the game, Noctis is sent on a diplomatic mission. He is to be married to Lunafreya of Accordo in its capital city of Altissia. Accompanying Noctis is his three best friends and protectors, Gladiolus, Ignis, and Prompto. With all that being put into motion, Noctis and crew, with a sweet ride I might add, embark on an adventure that will change everything, but not all is as it seems. After the opening cinematic and exposition, you and your heroic band of men push a car through the desert. I know this sounds unusual, but these first 2 minutes of ridiculously detailed car towing define the tone and pace for the first couple of chapters of the game. Breaking away from the mold of its predecessors, Final Fantasy XV is for the most part an open world, and with that open world comes a whole slew of mechanics and gameplay designs lifted from a decade's worth of open world titles. There is a main questline that pushes progression forward, and this is the focal point of the entire game. But alongside the questline, there is a massive amount of side activities that will eat up your time faster than a hungry Bahamut. These side quests make up a large bulk of the game's early content, and Final Fantasy XV actually encourages you to take part in the content in the way that a lot of slow-burning open-world games do now. Most of my time for the first 5 chapters of the game was spending doing hunting missions, side quests, and camping. Lots of camping and driving. While these sound like repetitive and unusual tasks for a Final Fantasy game, especially the camping part, a lot of them tie into the game mechanically in clever ways. For example, you gain experience from combat and doing quests, but you only level up when you set up a campsite or pay for a room at a lodging. There is an XP bonus when you pay for a room, or alternatively you can make a camp and have Ignis cook a meal that boosts stats temporarily. It's clever things like this that tie these slower, more mundane elements into something that affects you mechanically, and as surprising as this sounds, these slower moments are some of the most memorable in the game, and a lot of it has to do with your party of characters. In my opinion, one of the strongest aspects of this game is the interactions between the party of characters. For the most part, you will be stuck with Noctis, Ignis, Gladiolus, and Prompto, and by the end of the first chapter, I loved all of them. At the start of the game, you are sent on a diplomatic mission, but you and your friends more or less treat it like a road trip to get your buddy laid. And that lighthearted atmosphere, despite the world events going on, made me smile from time to time. As mentioned above, the first half of the game has a lot of slow burning activities that you are encouraged to take part and indulge in. These slow burning activities allow you to really know these characters in a realistic way that a lot of games try to do using flashy cinematics and set pieces. Much like real life, dull moments can be made memorable by sharing them with friends, and this game heightens that with the dialogue shared between all of them. All of them play off each other's rather tropey personalities and transforms them into realistic people.
Damn, this wind's strong. No! My perfectly groomed hair! Think you got it bad? Check out Ignis. Whoa! You're right.
It's rude to stare.
By the end of it, I grew to care about them like they were my own friends, because despite the setting and stakes, it really does feel like you and your best friends are going on an adventure. When not sitting by the campfire with your bros, you are more than likely beating something over the head with a giant sword that screams overcompensating. Final Fantasy XV's combat is something that shocked me, mostly because I played the Platinum demo that left a really bad taste in my mouth. Final Fantasy XV has a hybrid combat system that I believe has a good balance between the turn-based strategy of the older games and the action combat systems of other games of this past decade. Essentially, combat takes place within 2 modes. Wait mode is where you pause time briefly and plan out your moves, scan enemy weaknesses, and make any necessary changes to your equipment. Combat mode is where you execute real-time actions. The basic actions include attack, jump, block, and warp. Warping allows you to teleport distances, teleport to vantage points, or engage enemies at the cost of MP. While your party members are limited to what types of weapons they can use, Noctis can use any of the different types of weapons as well as magic. Noctis is the only playable character, and actually playing through combat with him is pretty solid. The new RPG action combat presented in the game functions very smoothly whether it's switching through weapons, blocking attacks, warping, parrying, and using magic. While it does lack the finesse of other action titles, everything is pretty responsive. My biggest and only real gripe with Final Fantasy XV's combat is the camera. It works most of the time, especially in the open world environment, but in small corridors, sometimes the camera will place itself in awkward positions where it is very difficult to make out what is going on. This happened in dungeons especially, and this inhibited the combat for me personally. For the sake of keeping this review as short as I can while being in depth, the overall presentation is what you'd expect from the series, and it doesn't disappoint. The art style, graphics, UI, and soundtrack all have sort of an obsessive beauty that lives up to the standards set by the series' games of past. There is so much detail in even the smallest things that just joyriding near the coast is just as beautiful as any pre-choreographed set piece. Absolutely stunning from an audio and visual standpoint. There's very little I can say about Final Fantasy XV's story without spoiling the game. Instead, I will choose to talk about the way pacing is handled in the game. The first half of the game is a slow-paced exploration feast, encouraging players to enjoy the little moments and play the game at their own pace. As the story progresses, the stakes become more intense, but for the most part, the idea of exploration is maintained through clever mechanical and plot elements. You're also introduced to a medley of side characters, and while they are likable, they don't get much development as the plot progresses, and neither does the world and its politics. I don't like mountains of exposition, and I enjoy the game's fast pace, but they throw a lot of terms, locations, and lore items that we are just expected to know. Maybe this is a causality of me not partaking in the anime or movie leading up to the game, but I feel that's a little bit unfair. The second half of the game is a strange juxtaposition to the first half. It takes a much more linear and cinematic direction, opting for more set-piece based progression rather than slow-paced exploration. One of the boss battles, Leviathan especially, is when I knew the game was going to take a radically different direction. Now let me be clear, this isn't a bad thing, and if anything, it feels more like a traditional Final Fantasy game in its linearity, but it's a noticeable change in pacing. While this tone matches what's going on in the story, elements such as the world lore and side characters get the bad end of this, getting little to no time for development or getting what feels like rushed character arcs. With all that being said, I do have to say the ending is one of the most satisfying endings in any video game I have experienced in a long time. The ending completely encapsulates all that I enjoyed about the game, and it even had me on the verge of tears. What is most amazing about Final Fantasy XV is the amount of risks they took. Not all of them work, but for the most part they enhance rather than inhibit the game experience. Every time you start the game, the prompt "A Final Fantasy for Fans and First-Timers" appear, and that is what this game truly is. Final Fantasy XV is not only a respectful nod at the franchise's 40-decade history, but an optimistic look at the future for the series moving forward. Final Fantasy is an oxymoronic title for a franchise that's been around as long as it has. If this game is any indication of what is to come in the future, this series will truly be anything but final. That is why I give Final Fantasy XV a 4.5 out of 5.
Thank you so much for watching this video. This is my first big review for the channel, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did making it. And if you want to see more content, feel free to subscribe, leave a like so we know what we can do better, leave your comments, etc, etc. And at the end card of this video, there will be a link to all our social medias, including the website itself, and a link to my YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.